Welcome to another lesson of Introductory Python for Ethical Hacking and Penetration Testing. I believe that so far we've covered a lot of important ground when it comes to getting your feet wet with Python. And most importantly, you should be fairly comfortable with Python by now, especially if, as I told you to, you've studied the mandatory readings of each lesson and you've practiced with what you learned in the Python interpreter and also in the code editor. Now, in this lesson, we're going to focus on two things: how to work with files in Python and how to install new modules. So, as a penetration tester or as a cybersecurity analyst, you'll often confront yourself with the situation of having to open files for reading and or updating their contents. And you'll have to create new files and start adding or appending content to them. That's why I find it important to go through this type of stuff with you, even though this might not be covered in your typical curriculum of introductory Python course. Okay, so how would you go about opening a file and printing its content line by line? And as the saying goes, there is more than one way to skin a cat, so you could actually do this in multiple ways. In my view, one of the better approaches is to use the with construct, so the with construct. And I know that this might be or seem odd at first, but as you practice it more, you'll become very familiar with it. So in this case, let's actually go to the Python interpreter. And we can do this in the interpreter as well. So we'll say with open passwords.txt. So this is a file, the passwords.txt is a file in the current directory, but if you want to use a file in a different directory, you will simply have to specify the full path to that file. And we'll actually open this in reading mode as f. And in this case, we'll say for a line in f, print line. So we have to make sure we have everything indented correctly with 4 spaces. And then we'll say f.close. And if we hit enter twice, it'll actually print each line in that password.txt file. Okay, so it'll print each line and then it'll go to a new line. Oh, alright, so let me actually explain how this works line by line. First, we use the open built-in function in Python to open the passwords.txt file in reading mode, hence the R over here. We could also open the file in binary mode, in append mode, in writing mode, and in other modes, as far as I can tell, even in a combination of them. So this entire with formulation is pretty logic if you think of it this way. You open the passwords.txt in reading mode and put this entire thing into a variable called f. So whatever the result of open passwords.txt in read mode, it will go into f. Then for each line in f, or for each line in the entire passwords.txt file, simply print the line and then close the file, which is a good practice. And that should be actually pretty easy to understand. Alright, let's now do an example when we have where we have a Python list and we want to store each element of the list as a line in a new file. In this case, let's create a list. So we'll say passwords equals, again, let's say secret with 3. Let's also say Santa Claus, of course, ethical hacking. What else? You can't guess me. So obviously I have a very extensive inspiration. Let's say also pass 1, 2, 3. and another one, let's say Bravo or Bravo. Okay, so this is our list. Now, similar to what we've done earlier, we'll create a new file, but this time we'll create it in append mode. So why do we create the file in append mode? Well, if you open it in write mode, so append mode would be A, write mode would be W. Alright, so if you open it in write mode and you go through a loop, the file will only store the last value it's been written. So this is, if you ask me, a weird quirk of Python, so don't ask me why. And in append mode, it will actually take each element of the list and put it on a new line in the file. So we'll do basically the same thing with open. In this case, let's say passes.txt. So in this case, it will create a passes.txt file in the same directory. And I've said that we're going to use the append mode, and we'll simply do as f, or we can do new f so that you don't get confused, and we'll say for password. In passwords, that's actually really simple to understand. So for each password in the passwords list, what do we want to do with the password? We'll say new f append password. So new f being our passes file, in append mode we'll say new f append password. Alright, and once it does that, we can say new f dot close, and then we hit enter twice to actually run this. So it says object has no attribute append. So we'll actually do the same thing with open passes for password and passwords. We can say new f write password, and then we'll say new f dot close, and then we hit twice, and then if we say with open passes.txt in reading mode as f, and then for line and f print line, and then we say f dot close. Let's see if we have our passwords written. We have them written, so it's Secret Santa Claus, Ethical Hacking, You Can Guess Me, Bravo. As we can see, all of them have been written together. So in this case, we could have simply said over here new f write password plus n for a new line to write the next word in a new line. So let's actually do that. We learn we learn progressively. So every time we see something that it doesn't work, we learn from our mistakes and we make things better the next time. So we can repeat this, let's say with open passes to.text in append mode, and we can say new to for password. In passwords, we can say new to write. We write the password, and we also write a new line. So we have the /n, which denotes that whatever comes after this is going to be put on a new line. Okay, and we then have to close it, so we'll say new to.close, and then we hit enter twice, and we can see that it ran. And now let's actually read it with open passes2.txt in reading mode as f, for example, for line in F, print line, and then f.close, and let's see, hit enter twice, and we can see each of them written on A or on an individual line. I will remind you at this point to make sure and check the mandatory readings document that comes along with this lesson to actually learn more about manipulating files in Python, because this is really important if you wish to be a pen tester or a cybersecurity analyst with solid Python skills. Alright, and now some more simpler stuff. As I said in the beginning of this video, we're also going to look into installing modules in Python. Now, these modules are basically Python files containing classes and functions that greatly reduce the amount of code you write. And there are Python modules for basically whatever you are working on. There are modules for astronomy, math, bioinformatics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, you name it. These modules have been written or developed by other people, reason by which the open source community of Python people is so great. So you're going to be a penetration tester. Let's say someone created a module called Pentest IP+. Okay, so this is a module and it helps you with scanning IP addresses. So you install this module in the command prompt or terminal. So we go back to our terminal over here and we exit. So you install the module in command prompt or terminal if you're on Linux with pip install pentest IP+. Okay, and once you run this command, assuming that this module exists, and this is installed, you open up a Python interpreter shell and you import it with import pentest IP+. Once you have it imported, you actually have access to all the classes and functions within that module. Now, let's say that one function allows you to scan an IP address by typing scan IP, so this would be a function, and specify the IP address 192.168.1.100. This is basically one line of code. You are calling a function or a method from within this pentest IP+ module. If you were to scan an IP address, and you'd only have your basic Python library, the one that comes pre-installed with your Python installation, you'd probably have to write dozens of lines of code to get the same result. So the person who wrote that module made your life much easier as a penetration tester. And this was actually just a hypothetical example. But in reality, there are practically hundreds, if not thousands, of libraries for cybersecurity and penetration testing, as well as for any other field you might be working in. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just need to search for them according to your basic needs. Alright, so that's a wrap. Now please make sure to check the resources document for the mandatory readings, as they are important in your successful completion of the course. That being said, I will see you in the next lesson.